We are beginning our unit on all about fractions. So unit 4 is all about fractions and how we multiply, divide, add, subtract, and solve with rational expressions. So first we're going to talk about how to multiply and divide with a rational expression. But you're probably like, what in the world, Miss Long, is a rational expression? Because if the whole unit's about it, I better figure out what that is. Well, guess what? A rational expression is a fraction created by two polynomials. So something that is rational, you guys, is something that can be expressed as a fraction. In this unit, we're going to be placing polynomials in the numerator and denominator to jazz it up and make it more exciting. So an example of this would be x squared minus 3x plus 5 divided by x plus 2. So again, this is a fraction, which means it's rational. But the ones we're going to deal with have polynomials in the mix, which is pretty exciting. Alright, we're going to start by simplifying rational expressions. So let's compare it to how to simplify just a normal, good old fraction, 10 divided by 20. So when we simplify fractions, we want to divide out things that go into the numerator and the denominator. So we want the largest number that will divide into the numerator and the denominator. So what's the largest thing that goes into 10 and 20? Holy hot dog, you guys are so smart. 10. Okay, 10 divides into 10 and 20. So we're going to be dividing those to the numerator and the denominator to simplify this thing down into 1/2 because 10 divided by 10 is 1 and 20 divided by 10 is 2. Okay, so the same exact concept can be applied when we have polynomials in the mix. So get excited. So we're going to be simplifying the rational expression and determine where the rational expression is undefined. Okay, so we're going to simplify these down and figure out where it's undefined. And what we're going to do, we're going to factor the numerator and the denominator. So in this unit, you have to remember all those nifty factoring techniques we talked about. You have to know how to slide and divide, how to find a difference of two squares. Okay, those are the most prominent ones that pop up, but every once in a while you see, some group factoring in the mix or maybe a sum or difference of cubes. So just watch out. But the most prevalent factoring you'll see is general factoring, so our slide and divide, or difference of two squares. Now something important, the term with the highest exponent must be positive. Okay, we do not like our leading coefficient to be negative. It just kind of messes up the problem and messes up how the problem looks. We like the problems to look a certain way, and the negative just kind of messes it up. Okay, so if it is not, if your leading coefficient is not positive, we have to factor out a -1, which will then turn it positive because a negative divided by a negative will transform into a positive. Okay, after we factor and make sure our leading coefficient is a positive number, we will determine where the rational expression is undefined. So let's talk about what makes a rational expression undefined. What does that even mean? So, where is a rational expression, or basically a fraction, undefined? Okay, so let's think about this. If we have a fraction, there is something that is never, ever, ever, ever allowed in the denominator. There's something you just cannot divide by when you have a fraction. Holy hot dog, you guys are so smart. The thing that you are never, ever, ever, ever allowed to divide by, ever, please don't do it, is 0. You can do 0 divided by something. 0 divided by something is just 0, but anything divided by 0 is undefined. So 0 can never be in the denominator. Never. Can never happen. It is allowed in the numerator, but not in the denominator. Okay, so watch yourself. And guys, this is serious. Anytime you divide by 0, a kitten dies. We cannot be killing kittens in this class. It is not allowed. Look at this kitten. How do you feel about this poor little kitten dying because you divided by 0? Do not do it. And if you try to, think about this poor, sad kitten. And also the demon cats will get you if you try to divide by 0. So I highly discourage dividing by 0. Just don't do it. Bad things happen. And I mean, look at this cute and cuddly kitten. We can't kill it. It's just too cute. Okay, so again, we don't divide by 0. Okay? Something else to keep in mind. Okay, what we're going to do to figure out where the fraction is undefined is by setting each factor in the denominator not equal to 0. Okay, so we don't want any of our factors to go to 0 because remember, you guys, factors are things that multiply together. Okay, so if one of your factors is 0, 0 times anything is 0, which will make the whole denominator 0, which is not allowed. So to prevent it, we're going to save it so we don't kill this cute and cuddly kitten. Okay, and we're going to prevent it by setting them not equal to 0 and make sure that none of our answers make it 0, or bad things will happen, especially to this cute and cuddly kitten. So let's get back to the problem. Alright, so in example 1 and 2, we will be simplifying it. And remember, we got to make sure the first term is not negative. If so, we got to factor out a -1. We will be determining where the rational expression is undefined by setting all the factors in the denominator not equal to 0 to prevent it from ever being 0. And then after that, like we did in this previous problem, you guys, when we simplified this fraction, we will be dividing, let me skip ahead, we will be dividing the fraction by what goes into the numerator and denominator to simplify it down. So that will be the final step. Okay, so skipping ahead again. Alright, so to figure out how to simplify a rational expression, go ahead and pause the video and watch example problem 1 and 2. This is the funsy, so you have to wait for it. Alright guys, so next up we will be multiplying rational expressions, which guess what, you guys? Multiplying rational expressions is the same thing as multiplying two fractions. Okay, what we're going to do when we multiply two rational expressions, first of all, we will be factoring the numerator and the denominator completely. That slash is an and, not divided by, so be careful. So we're going to factor the numerator and the denominator completely. Okay, after we do that, when you guys multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So we'll be going straight across. Okay, so that will be the next step. After that, we'll be dividing out factors that are in common in the numerator and the denominator, just like when we simplified a fraction. So basically, step 3 will make this one fraction, and then it's just going to turn into these simplifying problems that we did over here. So once we have one fraction, we'll just cross out all the like factors, and then with whatever is left, we will reduce the fraction down if possible. Okay, so don't overthink it. It's basically taking what we did in the previous problems a step further, which makes it more exciting. Alright, so to figure out how to multiply two fractions together, go ahead and pause the video and watch example problems 3 and 4. This is the funsy, so hold your horses, you guys. You got to do that later. Alright guys, dividing. Dividing rational expressions. When you divide two fractions, okay, basically we're going to be rewriting it as a multiplication problem, which will then make it just like these problems we did. So if we can get it to a multiplication problem, we've got it from there because we are pros by now at multiplying two fractions. So what we're going to do to change into a multiplication, we're going to keep the first fraction, change the division symbol to a multiplication symbol, and then we're going to flip the second fraction or find the reciprocal. So this is kind of what I like to call it, keep, change, flip. Okay, so basically we're going to force the dividing problems to turn into multiplication, and then it will flow very similarly to these problems. So no worries, you guys. Okay, so we have two nifty example problems 5 and 6. Go ahead and pause the video, and to see how similar dividing is to multiplication, pause the video and watch example problems 5 and 6. Alright, you guys, the final phase of this section. Okay, we will be dealing with rational equations. So in order for something to be an equation, it must have an equal sign, which all the stuff we've been dealing with has not had any equal signs. That doesn't have an equal sign. That doesn't have an equal sign. That doesn't have an equal sign. None of these had equal signs. Oh, sorry, this. Okay, none of the problems we dealt with had equal signs. Okay, so now we're going to be throwing equal signs into the mix through a rational equation. Guys, and it's actually going to be very similar to the process that we've been doing. We just have an equal sign to deal with. So let's talk about this. what we're going to do, like we've been doing, we're going to factor the numerator and the denominator. Okay, remember the term with the highest exponent must be positive. Okay, remember if it's not, we have to factor out a -1. We do not like our leading coefficient to be negative. We just don't like it. Mathematicians are very picky about things, and this is one thing that we are picky about. Okay, so then we are going to determine where the rational expression is undefined, which if you remember from over here, to save our cute and cuddly kitten, we never divide by 0. Sorry guys, didn't mean to do that. Alright, so remember, we have to set all the factors in the denominator not equal to 0. Okay, so we'll be doing that when we solve these rational equations. Okay, so after we determine where the rational expression is undefined, we will divide out any like terms in our fraction, so in our numerator and denominator. After that, we'll simplify our equation down, which will allow us to solve for x super easily. Okay, and once we solve for x, we have to check our answer to make sure it's not undefined. Because if it's undefined, we'll be killing kittens, and that's not allowed. We'll be dividing by 0 if it's undefined. So if any of our answers is in the part that we solved for being undefined, we cannot use it. And what is it called when when answers do not work in math? Holy hot dog, you guys are so smart. They are extraneous solutions. So we will call them extraneous if they end up being ones that are undefined. Alright, so to see how we solve a rational equation, go ahead and pause the video and watch example problems 7 and 8. That's the funsy. And that's all, folks.